Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. If y'all can go ahead and find your seats, we're going to get started. Welcome to the Chamber of Commerce City Council Candidate Forum. I'd like to welcome you here tonight and say my name is Leslie Brown, the President and CEO of here at the Chamber. And we're really excited that you were able to come tonight and be a part. I wanted to let you know that our goal tonight is for our candidates to have the opportunity to express their opinions about some big topics here that are impacting the city. So at the end of tonight, we're hoping that that has been able to happen and that you'll be able to learn something by coming tonight. And that is our number one priority. Let me explain that there will be no questions accepted from the floor tonight. The questions were submitted to the from all of you guys, pretty much, and so they were put through a proofreading process, and we made sure that no question was directed at one candidate, but that it was blanketed for all the candidates, and they have been put into a jar. We'll pull those out one at a time and ask those questions. Just a little more about the procedure. Everybody will have a minute to answer. They will also have opening statements that are a minute, 30 seconds, and then they'll have closing statements that are 3 minutes. And so Bradley, we're going to go ahead and have Bradley pray for us this evening.
Would you join me in prayer? God, we thank you to live in such an incredible place like Sulphur Springs and Hopkins County, how blessed we are to be here. God, I do pray for these that are going to be speaking to us tonight, that you would give them clarity of mind, clarity of words, and that we would listen intently to what they have to say and make informed decisions. God, I pray that we honor you with our lives as we work and as we play, and I just pray that we honor you with all we do. We love you, we praise you, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get started on what we came here to do. And so I want to introduce the candidates to you. So for place 1, we have Erica Armstrong and Craig Johnson. For place 2, we have Jimmy Lucas and Sarah Gibson. And for place 3, we have Oscar Aguilar, and Norman Sanders could not be here this evening. His wife had surgery today. And so he wrote a closing statement that Chris will be able to read a little later. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this microphone over to Chris Brown so that we can get started with opening statements.
All right, I think the appropriate introduction would be the "Let's get ready to rumble" as we start. But no, okay. For the first round of our forum, it's going to be the opening statements. The candidates did draw prior to or once they arrived this evening, so I will invite Mr. Craig Johnson to go ahead and start with his opening statement.
Thank you, Chris. And I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting on this event. And Leslie, thank you for all your hard work. I know that you and your board put a lot of work into this, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. But most of all, I'd like to thank all of the citizens that are in the room for your amount of care and concern and interest in our local city election and coming out, and I appreciate every one of you for being here. My name is Craig Johnson, and it has been my honor and privilege to be your city councilman for the last 9 years for place 1 in Sulphur Springs. I am a 4th generation Hopkins County resident, and I spent the first 18 years of my life growing up in this great city. One of the things that is nice about a town like Sulphur Springs is growing up in a place like this, you're isolated from a lot of the horrible things that can happen in this world. And as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate where I grew up, not only as a place that nurtured me, but as a place where I was isolated and sheltered so that I could mature and more easily find my place in the world. I had great parents. I had a great church. Look at that. I'm already down to 12 seconds. Great parents, great church. And one of the things I'd like to sum up, since I have 12 seconds left, is that change takes guts. Change takes courage, and it takes commitment to see progress and success come about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I will invite Mrs. Erica Armstrong.
I'm going to stay seated because I unfortunately have a head cold and I need to be close to this water. Good evening, Sulphur Springs. I am Erica Armstrong, candidate for Place 1. I was born and raised in Sulphur Springs. I'm the daughter of Gary and Pat Odom, the wife to Toby, and the mom to 3 kids. Toby and I are co-owners of Snap Fitness here in Sulphur Springs and in Greenville, and I handle all of the accounting operations for our businesses. Toby is also a captain with the Greenville Fire Department, where he's worked since 1998. As we prepare for the remainder of the forum tonight, I would like to highlight my main goals, if elected, and what I consider a few important issues in our city. I want to bring new ideas, excitement, and different perspective to the council. Focus on the senior community and their need for a safe and functioning facility, to revamp our park system, examine our resources to ensure safe places to play, support and encourage strong morale in our police and fire departments, find ways to capitalize on the acquired Lumina property, Wildcat Way, and other locations with enticing incentives for new businesses and homes. Address some issues downtown like parking, trash disposal, maintenance complaints for business owners. While maintaining the integrity and the beauty of downtown that we've already achieved, I want to move outward to all corners of the city while addressing some eyesores and street repairs. Continue with those revitalization efforts. Having volunteered for many years with numerous organizations, I know I can't accomplish these goals by myself, but I look forward to being a part of a unified council in the best interest of Sulphur Springs.
Thank you, Mrs. Armstrong. All right, next we will go to Place 2, and in the drawing, Miss Sarah Gibson.
That always helps. As he said, I am Sarah Gibson. I've lived in Sulphur Springs since 1963. I'm a former Planning and Zoning Commissioner. I've served on the Downtown Revitalization Board. I am a business owner, president, and CEO of a corporation. I feel my experience highly qualifies me to be your next Place 2 City Council person. I won't win your vote with my eloquent speech. See, I have not had to make speeches or presentations in my career, but what I have had to do is make decisions that had a bearing on many people and their families. My agenda is simple: focus on the future, as has been done in the past. Our great water situation, the sewer plant expansion, downtown revitalization, all done in the past to guarantee a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Now we will hear from Mr. Jimmy Lucas.
My name is Jimmy Lucas, and I also would like to thank the Chamber and everybody who had something to do with this and putting it on. It's rare that we get this opportunity. Any small group of people gathered that we can speak to is nice. So with that said, I have retired from Coca-Cola after 25 years. I moved on to work now for corporate Dr. Pepper, Keurig, and I'm basically a babysitter and compliance officer for Walmart's, Brookshire's, racetracks, pilots. I make sure that Dr. Pepper gets what they're getting for their money and the customer makes money. I'm married to Jennifer Lucas. She's a nurse here in town. We have 2 children. One has moved away, and Kylie has remained here. She works for City National Bank. And we raised our kids here. We love it here. We've seen a lot of good things come from Sulphur Springs, but like anybody else, I've mainly running for city council because I had street issues. And once I saw the street issues, I got to looking around, and I would just see things that I would like to see changed. And anybody will tell you that that will not be easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. And for Place 3, we have Mr. Oscar Aguilar.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Oscar Aguilar. I've been here in Sulphur Springs since 1969. Our family moved here from Arizona, and we wouldn't go back for anything, I promise you. This small town has been a blessing to my family and obviously everybody here. I'm a funeral director, and please excuse me if I have to get up and leave, because I go on the clock at 5 o'clock and I work till 8 in the morning, so things happen. So, but Sulphur Springs, wow, what a place to be. We all love this place. We all moved here as soon as we could. We're doing the best that we can, and the progress that we have with our community here, our parks, our schools, this building here, our downtown, everything that we've done here. Like I said last time when we were at the other forum, in 1980, I was the only Mexican to graduate, and I'll say it again, I'm proud of that. I've been the first Mexican mayor here in Sulphur Springs and on the city council. I'm happy for that. Please re-elect me. This will be my fifth term. We still got a lot of work to do, and hopefully we can continue with the progress that we've done here in Sulphur Springs. Yes, streets, water, sewer, are a lot of issues that we have, and we'll make the best of it. Thank you.
All right, in this next round, these will be random questions that are drawn from the bowl in front of me. The first question will go to place one. Both candidates will answer the same question, and the first candidate to answer will be Mrs. Armstrong. So, after drawing the question, do you feel that police and fire are adequately equipped and staffed? So, Mrs. Armstrong?
Actually, no, I don't. Sorry. Actually, no, I do not feel that they are adequately equipped and staffed. We did add a new fire engine to our fleet this year, which was a big help, and those things are very important to make sure that they are kept up and maintained, just for obvious reasons. I do think that we are lacking in the fire department and the police department. I know there's a pretty big turnover regularly on especially police jobs, and I feel that adding more firemen and police to our staff is of utmost importance to our safety, obvious, because there are certain things that firemen cannot do if there isn't enough staff. They cannot legally go into a burning structure if they do not have enough staff. And the same for police. You always want to make sure that you have the backup that you need. So that is a very important issue that we could address.
And Mr. Johnson, the same question. Do you feel that police and fire are adequately equipped and staffed?
So the answer to that is yes and no. Yes, we do everything that we can with the taxpayer dollars that are available to equip the police and fire. Now, they all do a very tough job, and they put their lives on the line for every one of us. So they need to have every opportunity to have the best equipment available. And we've been buying new police cars each year. We've just bought a new fire engine. We buy new bunker gear in a regular basis. And they've all got good radios that they use. And now one of the things that we did was after 9/11, we needed radios where they could all talk to each other, including not just the first responders, but people that would come in from out of the area. But there's more to do. And that's just something that we try to continue to improve each year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Now moving on to a question for place two. And that question will be, what past successes in the city do you feel are most important? And Mr. Lucas, that question is to you first.
What I feel like the past successes of our city right now is actually it's downtown. I mean, when you come to Sulphur Springs, you go downtown. You see downtown. Many people fall in love with our downtown and move here. However, getting to downtown, we've got problems. So to me, to encourage those people to come back and stay here, we need to look at some avenues to improve getting to downtown. And but downtown stands alone, and it is made up of local businesses, which we need to support. Many times we see local businesses driven out by big box stores, and I don't think that our community is going to stand for that, and they're going to support downtown. Thank you.
And Ms. Gibson, the same question to you. What past successes in the city do you feel are most important?
Well, as I alluded to in my opening statement, we are in a great situation with our water. We have a lot of water for future growth. We just expanded our sewer plant. It should last us another 20 years, I understand. And the downtown. We have an awesome downtown, and it's just a place where people gather and have fun and get to de-stress after work. We want to grow for the future. We need jobs. We need jobs that have benefits so that people can have insurance. And we have some promising things coming along for that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Now our question for place 3, Mr. Aguilar. What is your opinion of the EDC, the Economic Development Corporation?
The EDC has done great for Sulphur Springs. They are a company that is a silent company. We don't hear much about them and what they do until, they do start breaking ground here in town. Reason being that, they're trying to lure and bring in companies and move businesses here. And, there's a lot of privacy clauses in the contracts and things that they have to do. So a lot of that has to be kept quiet. But the EDC works hard, traveling and going places, trying to, get businesses to come to Sulphur Springs and to come to a good school like this and come to our downtown. It's not easy for them to move a whole company of families, to come. That's why we got to work hard also within the city and with EDC to be able to get those kind of people, those businesses. Amaroq is here, and I'm sure there'll be others, but the EDC is doing a great job.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Now we will go ahead and rotate back to place 1, and the next question for place 1, and we will start with Mr. Johnson this time. If successful in your campaign, what are your top goals for the next 3 years for the city?
Thank you for that question. So, we've done great downtown, and we have spent an enormous amount of money downtown. And right here, after, 11 years after starting, we're done. Now, we need to continue to maintain downtown, and we have another opportunity. I'm sorry, Red, I can try to talk louder. We have an amazing opportunity when this county got a gut punch 3 years ago when Luminant announced that they were going to close that mine. And one of the things that we were able to do was turn lemons into lemonade and sit in a room with Luminant and actually convince them to give more than 4,700 acres to the city. And that is going to be an enormous undertaking, and it's going to take a generation, and it's going to have parks, it's going to have recreation, it's going to have things to do. And right in the middle of it is a double rail spur that will be an amazing place for an industry, and we have one that is huge right now that wants to take that over, and all we have to do is get them to sign up. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Armstrong, same question. If successful in your campaign, what are your top goals for the next 3 years for the city?
Well, for the next 3 years, I would like to work on, as Mr. Johnson said, in continuing the improvements of our town, similar to what we've done downtown. I want to move outward while we continue to support the downtown efforts and make sure that that still thrives and all of our businesses down there that are so important. I also want to continue that out to the rest of the town to make it look like downtown, make them have the same feel as downtown and the same pride that people, our citizens, feel when we go downtown. I want them to feel that way about Southtown and Northtown. I want them to feel feel a sense of pride when they invite people to Sulphur Springs, so that we can be proud of the whole town and not just downtown.
All right. Thank you both for your answers. Now we will go back to place 2, and this time we will start with Ms. Gibson. Your question is, how will you work with city and county departments and or civic organizations that you may have had conflict with in the past?
I can't think of one conflict that I've had in the past. If anybody knows of anything, let me know. Because I just am that kind of person. I work with people. Sometimes you have to give, sometimes you have to take, but basically, even as a business owner, I hate to say I'm good at, but I'm okay at working with people. I do well with people, and I think the employees will think the same thing. And community, what'd you say, community organizations, same thing. I love to work with people, and I look forward to it.
And Mr. Lucas, now to you. How will you work with city and county departments and or civic organizations that you may have had conflict with in the past?
Well, I believe that we live in a small community, and occasionally we will have conflicts. Mostly it's just because of a difference of opinion. But strongly, I work and I get paid to solve conflict. And usually what I find out is that if somebody has my phone number and I answer their call, the conflict pretty much goes away on its own. So, what I would do is just try to make sure that everybody can have contact and access to me when they need me, and try to resolve their problem, and then there's no conflict. How do you?
Thank you both very much. Now we will go to place 3, Mr. Aguilar. Are you in favor of a separate fire and police chief? If so, how will you fund those 2 positions?
That position we had, and that position was terminated this past year. I believe the chief of police has done well and will continue to do well with that position. It is an administrative position. I feel that the other officers that were there, I don't know the ranking order, but that at any time that they could be able to step up to the plate, become that fire chief at the moment, and work together along with the rest of the crew that he has. The commander, that's a long question for such a short answer in a minute. It really is. But I think we made the right decision, and we'll continue to make it work.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Now we will return to place 1. We will go back to Mrs. Armstrong. Okay. All right, Mrs. Armstrong, this will be the question for you. While you have heard a lot about the property tax rate, let me start over. While we have heard a lot about the property tax rate, what is your opinion about the water and sewer rates over the past several years?
I feel the water and sewer rates are actually pretty fair. We actually personally have had a drop in our water and sewer bill at my house. Not sure how, because we have 2 teenage boys that like to take 30-minute showers. But anyway, we have had a drop in those. So just to see those numbers, obviously it was a good decision made by the city to contract with the current sanitation company that we're using, and have been able to maintain reasonable water bills and for the citizens. So I think that's important without losing service. So I think it's a good service.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Johnson, same question. While we have heard a lot about the property tax rate, what is your opinion about the water and sewer rates over the past several years?
So the city, when it operates on the actual city side of things, the water department we kind of treat separate as an enterprise. And it's really a business. It sells a product, and every year the stuff that we buy costs more. And none of us like it, but it's inflation. And one thing that irritates people is when prices go up about 2 to 3% a year. And one of the things that we've had to deal with, and we hear a lot about streets as far as our infrastructure, but underneath the ground we've got water and sewer pipes. And in years past, those were not adequately replaced when they needed to be, and so we have an enormous amount of water and sewer pipes that need to be replaced. And we've got some in the city that are 70 years old, and the money has to come from somewhere to do this because we all want clean water, and we all like it when we flush the toilet that goes somewhere else. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now moving back over to place 2, Jimmy Lucas. Mr. Lucas's question will be yours first. What are your plans to support current business and entice business and retail growth?
Well, I'm in the retail growth business. If I don't grow the business, then I don't get paid. And so I am very familiar with what it takes to get companies to come here. Number one, all large retailers will tell you that they want what's best for their employees. They want good hospitals, good schools. They want a good city. They want a productive city. They want a city that is not divided. And they send out a lot of investigators, and they check these things out. The city doesn't know. They check fire departments, police reports. They go over housing, and I would lend a hand to those people at any time. Most big box retailers are in my Rolodex, and they answer my calls. So.
Thank you. And now Ms. Gibson, same question. What are your plans to support current business and entice business and retail growth?
I think it's just time to get in there and do whatever we can. We need jobs here, retail growth. We need to have businesses here that keep us here, that keep us shopping here and not going out of town. We tend to do that a lot. I personally try not to, but the EDC's done a great job to try to entice businesses, and I would love to work alongside them to roll my sleeves up and get in there and do the work with them.
Thank you both. Now moving back over to place 3, Mr. Aguilar. This is going to be a very similar question to the one he just answered. Does anybody have a problem?
Chris, you're in charge.
All right. I'm going to redraw just so there's a separate question essentially in the mix here. It's worded differently, but being back-to-back, I think this will be better for everyone. All right. Mr. Aguilar, the city's annual budget is usually around $25 million. Outside of previous service on the city council, what is the largest budget you have overseen, and in what capacity?
I worked at West Oaks Funeral Home here I've worked at West Oaks twice. I was there from 2003 to 2006, and I was a manager there, overseeing, the funeral home business. At that point in time was when Enron Houston went down, and the Sarbanes-Oxley rule came into effect. And we were the first funeral home, because it was SEI Corporate Funeral Home at the time. We were the first little funeral home in Sulphur Springs, Texas, that got hit nationwide with the inspectors coming in and making sure everything was dotted, everything was accounted for, and we passed with flying colors. So, you know, of course, in the funeral business, you only get one chance, and you better do it right. So, you know, say that was a learning experience for us there, working with those contracts and working with that.
Thank you. All right, our next question will go back to place 1. And Mr. Johnson, this will be yours first. How do you plan to fund your ideas to improve our city?
That's a good question. Through all of our tax dollars. I mean, that's where most of the money that the city gets comes from. Part of it's property tax, part of it's sales tax, part of it comes through grants from the state and federal government, and some of it is borrowed. And one of the things that has been real nice since 2009 is the city has been able to borrow money because we have such a good credit rating, and because interest rates are low, we've been able to borrow money for less than 2%. And as somebody who has borrowed money personally, I really wish I could get a 2% rate on my homeowner's policy or my mortgage. But you know, the city's able to do that because it's tax-free interest, and also because we have such a good credit rating, and we've managed our budgets and our finances so well that we're able to maintain that credit rating. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mrs. Armstrong, the same question to you. How do you plan to fund your ideas to improve our city?
Well, same as Mr. Johnson, we would obviously still continue to use our tax dollars to fund those certain projects. However, there are a couple of issues that I've brought up that maybe we could use volunteer groups or utilize our inmates for some of those projects. I had an idea to bring about some volunteer groups to update and revamp our parks and do different community service jobs all over town. So I'm thinking we could better use those resources than what we currently are, and that we could come up with some different ways to use our budget wisely, so that maybe some of those things could be could be funded wisely, instead of completely relying on tax dollars. We could also use the volunteers too.
Thank you both. Back over to place 2. Ms. Gibson, this question will be yours first. As a city council member, would you be willing to favor the use of eminent domain to acquire private property for the expansion of downtown development?
Would you read that one more time?
Yes, ma'am. As a city council member, would you be willing to favor the use of eminent domain to acquire private property for the expansion of downtown development?
For downtown development?
Yes, ma'am.
No. Not totally against eminent domain, but not just to make more downtown. Does that make sense? There's just not a lot of reason to do that right at this point that I know of now, and I may not know all there is to know, but I would say at this point, no.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Lucas, your question, same question. As a city council member, would you be willing to favor the use of eminent domain to acquire private property for the expansion of downtown development?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, we live in Texas where people are proud of their property. As long as they're maintaining that property, taxes are paid, they maintain it, it's not an eyesore, I see no reason to use eminent domain to expand downtown. We got plenty of room downtown. We have empty buildings now. We need to concentrate on getting them filled up rather than trying to expand downtown.
Right, moving on to place 3. Mr. Aguilar, do you feel the city needs a policy on city council members' use of social media? If so, what should it include and why?
There ought to be, I feel. Social media definitely bring down somebody, tear them down. We've seen it happen. We have to be careful with what we post and what we do, obviously. Facebook is presented so many problems for, use it wisely, I guess, but that's hard to handle. I don't know. If you do, I don't know where you could start. The internet is wild. How can you patrol it? How can you take care of it? If you don't want it out there, don't put it out there. So.
Thank you very much. Candidates, as we move along, there is a question I have been avoiding and I will continue to avoid because I have viewed the questions so I wouldn't read them cold to you. And this one's a little bit bigger than the rest, so just so y'all will know, I'm going to set this to the side. I'm going to take a piece of paper that's about the size of the others, and that is a question that's already been read about the $25 million budget. So when I pull this one out, I will pull the larger question out. That way there's it's all totally random that way. Is that okay with y'all?
You're assuming we understood that.
This piece of paper is much bigger than the others, and I know the question, at least what it regards to, because I have pre-read them, just so I wouldn't read them cold. So I'm just going to set that there. If I draw the question that's already been read, I will move to that question. So, all right. Now, going back to place 1. Okay, Ms. Armstrong. Your question is, are you in favor of a phase 2 for downtown?
At this time, I would say no. We've done so much downtown already, and I think it may be creating some resentment from other areas in town that feel a little left out. So at this time, I would say no. We've done enough downtown. It's time to do something else and move on.
All right. And Mr. Johnson, same question. Are you in favor of a phase 2 for downtown?
Absolutely. And one of the things that is a little bit of a problem at the moment, as Erica pointed out, is there is some resentment. And a lot of that is perception versus reality. And since 2009, the city has spent 6% of its budget downtown. And at the same time, the city has tried to average spending over $1 million a year on streets, and the city has actually averaged $1.1 million a year on streets. And the perception is also, since we all go through downtown probably 2 or 3 times a day and see how pretty it is, and every time you hit a pothole somewhere else, that the city must be neglecting other parts of town. And the other truth is that we've repaved or completely redone 1/3 of the streets in the last 10 years. And as long as we keep this up, we will always keep up with the 91 miles of streets that we have in town. And unfortunately, there's always going to be some that's bad, and we just have to make sure that we have a good crew out fixing potholes when that happens. Thank you.
Thank you both. All right, back to place 2. Mr. Lucas, you will have the mic first. Should city and county fire departments remain separate or be combined?
Well, my feeling about that is that we should remain separate. They both, they already work together, and I see no reason to join those guys. For one thing, the county budgets for their fire department, and we budget for ours, and so far that's worked out just fine. I've heard no talk of any problems with that being the way it is right now, and I would not be in favor of changing that.
And Ms. Gibson, same question to you. Should city and county fire departments remain separate or be combined?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think the way it is works for everybody, and from what I understand, it ain't broke. I feel like it works well the way it is, and we're good.
Moving right along to place 3. Who's next? Who's up first on place 3? Oh, wait, sorry. Mr. Aguilar. Some citizens have voiced concerns about the transparency of the city council and city manager. How would you improve transparency and the relationship between city leadership and its constituents?
I believe our city manager has done a wonderful job getting us to where we're at now. Everything is out there in the open. I mean, public records are public records. They're out there. He don't shy nothing from us, and we don't shy nothing from us. I mean, it's not a paid job, folks. We don't gain from this. We're here because we want to help this community. We want to help this city. And I think Mr. Maxwell has done an excellent job providing, and with his leadership, and not just this council, the council that has been behind me. Yes, I've been here 12 years, but there's been others that, they planted the seed, and we've gotten to where we're at. So, but no, I mean, public records are out there. I mean, what we do it for everybody's interest, okay?
And I must say the candidates have done amazingly well holding to time and sticking to the questions, because we were down to our last 3 questions now. So we'll go back to place 1. Mr. Johnson, what other areas should be the focus of taxpayer money if not downtown?
Well, I brought up the mine earlier, but to be honest, we really have no idea what to do with that place yet because it's so big. And one of the things that I brought up earlier is that we've been averaging $1.1 million per year that we've been spending on streets. This year, we're spending $2.9 million on streets. And part of the reasons that we've been doing that is that we got the opportunity to get caught up. The other thing that we're doing, which has been mentioned earlier, is we're spending over $18 million on expanding the sewer plant. And that will allow us to grow another 10,000 in population, or, depending on the size, add another 2 or 3 food processing plants, depending on how much pretreatment that they have in their wastewater when it comes out of the plant. But I do think that as I mentioned earlier, there needs to be a lot more money that's spent on infrastructure in all parts of the town. Thank you.
And Mrs. Armstrong, same question. What other areas should be the focus of taxpayer money if not downtown?
Well, I've stated my goals a couple of times so far, but I would like to reiterate a few of those because I feel like our parks systems, and I think I made a post on Facebook, and I think I may have stepped on some toes there, not meaning to. I really feel that Coleman Park and our ballparks in Coleman Park are immaculate. I mean, you couldn't ask for better. We play in lots of ball fields, and we have just about the best around. But with that being said, our other parks in town could use some help. Pacific Park, Buford Park, Kids Kingdom, the bathrooms over there I know have been being repaired lately, but there's just some real issues with those that I think we could better spend our money. And some other issues like spending our tax money on trying to help businesses come here. It's important that we understand what those issues are that people look at, the new businesses look at.
Thank you both. All right, and for place 2, Ms. Gibson. I've got a good man helping me keep that in track here. So
great.
All right, Ms. Gibson, what are your thoughts on implementing a recycling program in Sulphur Springs?
One more time. Sorry.
No problem. What are your thoughts on implementing a recycling program in Sulphur Springs?
That's funny you would ask that question, because I just posted on Facebook today, what are your thoughts on a recycling program in Sulphur Springs? I really feel like it's something we should do some way, somehow. I know we have to fund the jobs to do it and that kind of thing, but it's just so wasteful not to do that. We've got so much stuff going to the landfills that could be recycled. And the one post, or the one reply that I saw to my post was a lady that had lived in other cities and said that they did it, and it just really helped. Like her trash went down to like 1 bag. So I really think it's something that I would like to pursue if elected.
And Mr. Lucas, same question. What are your thoughts on implementing a recycling program in Sulphur Springs?
Well, I certainly think that citizens have a concern for it, and so do companies. My company right now is implementing, trying to make plastic bottles out of biodegradable material rather than a material that will last in a landfill for 40 years. So I know companies are interested in it, we're interested in it, but the big question is can we pay for it? And it will really take a lot of checking into it before we could commit to something like that, because I understand it's very expensive. I also did a Facebook poll on this, and 90% of the answers on that was positive for it. But the stronger question is we just don't want to take away from something to pay for something else.
And coming to the final question, at least in the drawing phase of our competition this evening. And yes, this will be the one that I put in place of the large one, so it would be fair. So, Mr. Aguilar. And this one does have a little bit of explanation before the question, but they believed it was pertinent, so I'm going to read the entire question here. As a business owner on Main Street, we consistently hear, quote, "We just don't come down there because you can't find a place to park," end quote. As the owner, I made a rule that my employees and myself are not allowed to park on Main Street or in front of another business. We utilize a nearby public parking lot. It is frustrating that we basically save parking for other business owners and employees to use. Last Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., out of 24 spots on this block of Main, there were 9 trucks or cars belonging to businesses. What are your thoughts on implementing 2-hour parking downtown?
I have noticed that I know it's your business and you have Main Street and you got to try to get in and open the door, but we don't have a lot of parking, that's true. The way it was set up when we did Main and Conley Street, it was walking streets, where you could walk into downtown and stuff like that. But yes, something needs to be done. I don't know if the Downtown Business Alliance can work at that, or how we can implement that, because if you do own a business, you want your customers to park up front, not to be in your employees, taking up the spots like the question said. So yes, it's something that we need to work at, to, if you own a shop, whatever, to try to work at it and get your employees or park in the parking lot somewhere. But yes, that does need to be brought to attention.
All right, thank you all very much. We will move in to the next phase, which there were 2 questions distributed to each candidate right before the beginning of this forum. Now, we will ask each candidate to answer the question. So, what order? Okay, we will start with place 1, and the next up would be Ms. Armstrong. So, Mrs. Armstrong, the question is, excluding any previous service you may have had on the City Council, what is your strongest asset you bring to this position? What is your biggest weakness? And you will have 30 seconds on these questions.
Well, I feel that knowing myself, and I feel like maybe the ones that know me best would say that I'm a strong leader, I'm a good friend, I'm very devoted, I'm very creative, I'm a budgeter, I'm organized. Sometimes I wish more organized. My biggest weakness would be hard to say, because probably I can't say no. I have a hard time telling people no. And I'm also overly sensitive to some situations, so I guess that would be my biggest weakness.
Okay, thank you. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, sir.
Okay.
So I think that my biggest asset that I bring to the table is that I finish what I start. And this is something that was instilled in me by my parents. I've done a lot of things in my life that took multiple years to achieve, and you take large task and you break it down into small parts and you just work at it over time until you finish. I would say that my greatest weakness, my wife could probably answer that a lot better than I could, but I am a big fan of constant, everyday improvement, and you just got to know your limitations and figure out what they are and work to make them better. Thank you.
Thank you. No, same question. Yeah. So the first step, next place. Okay. Mr. Lucas, your turn, please, sir.
Well, I would say that my strong point is specifically for City Council. My employees and my customers would say that I am quick to solve a problem. When I see an issue, I go at it, and I don't stop usually until it is completed. And they know that I am going to answer that call, and I'm going to solve their problem.
I believe that's the time we have, so yes, sir. And Ms. Gibson, would you like me to go ahead and repeat the question, or are you? Okay.
I guess my strongest asset is just that I'm a business owner. I'm a leader. I work with people every day that may or may not want to do what I want them to. I guess my biggest weakness is speaking off the cuff about things I don't know people are going to ask me.
All right. And Mr. Aguilar.
I guess my strongest point is working well with others, especially under the worst circumstances. My weakness is, I guess I'm involved in a lot of things, but sometimes I put too many irons in the fire, and but I get the job done and get things done. But just working well with others and do the best I can.
All right, and we'll continue our switching, but I think we're going to rename this to the lightning round as well. So this 30 seconds is going by real quick. So our next question to each candidate, and Mr. Johnson, you will field this question first this time. What do you see as the most pressing issue or need facing the city right now?
I don't think that we do a good enough job communicating with citizens about what's going on. We are having one of the best times that this county has ever seen. We have the lowest unemployment that we have had in a generation. Taxes are low. We have employers that are begging people to come and work, and our downtown is thriving. And it is just a great time to be a citizen in Sulphur Springs, and we need people to know that. And we just don't do a good enough job letting people know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Armstrong?
I feel, even although there are several that we've mentioned tonight, I feel that bringing people here to live, bringing new businesses here to start up a new life for their business, I feel that that's most important. But the things that we must have for that to happen: strong school systems, exemplary police and fire departments. We have to have good paying jobs with benefits. We have to have safe housing. We have to have retail choices. Those things are important for new business, and that's what we need to focus on.
Thank you. Ms. Gibson, you're up.
I feel like we need jobs. I feel like we need jobs with benefits. I think I might have said that earlier, but we need jobs that keep our kids here. They don't feel like they have to leave to go get a great job. They're real excited. Our grown kids are real excited about downtown and everything we have to offer, but we don't have jobs to keep them here. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Lucas?
Well, I believe this strongly, because it affects us all in this room, and it affects my family as well. We have to figure out some way to get that fire chief back. I'm not sure of the particulars. I don't know if it was a cost-saving measure or the department just did not need that position. But I don't see other small communities trending that way. And I would like to see that fire chief brought back.
And now, Mr. Aguilar.
Some of the pressing issues, of course, jobs and businesses that everybody else has been talking about, but we're getting up in age, and everybody else in this room too. We definitely need a senior center. We definitely need a place. If we're going to bring in new businesses, if we're going to bring people in, they're going to have to they're going to need a place to go retire, a place to go. And I'm going to need a place to go one of these days, to have fun when we get 70, 80 years old, whatever. I mean, we definitely need that for our seniors here in town.
All right. Thank you all very much. I really must commend you. 18 questions answered in the course of right under an hour. That's y'all have done pretty well. Y'all aren't the typical politicians, so thank y'all very much. Now it has come time for our closing statements. We will also follow our place 1, 2, and 3. And our first candidate to go ahead and bring us their closing statement will be Miss Erica Armstrong.
George A. Moore said, "A man travels the world over in search of what he needs and returns home to find it." My goal is to continue to make Sulphur Springs a town that we can all be proud to call home, and that others will see that this is a great place to live, work, and play. I'm very proud of our town and all the progress that's been achieved. I love that our beautiful downtown helps to draw in visitors, but I would love to draw them for a lifetime instead of just a visit. I want Sulphur Springs to be the place where my children's children want to raise their families. I feel that downtown is just the starting place and look forward to carrying the same pride and excitement throughout the rest of the city. I would like to see us attracting new businesses with incentive packages so that we can increase revenue and give our citizens retail choices. I would like to research the creation of controlled volunteer groups to aid in the maintenance and beautification of our parks and other areas throughout the city. I fully support the police and fire departments and would like to help restore morale that seems to be waning. It has been mentioned that the tax rate here has remained the same, 44 cents a hundred, for many years. This is true. Tax rates have remained the same. However, property values have had a major increase. What a lot of citizens don't realize is that the option of approving taxation based on effective tax rate would bring in the same amount of money as the previous year by effectively lowering the actual rate to compensate for the higher property values. This is the best way to not raise the amount of taxes actually being paid by our citizens, if that's what the concern is. I strongly believe that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. This was my determining factor when I was contemplating my run for city council. What a great way to continue to illustrate to my children and to others to accept the sacrifice, to try to make a difference and be a part of the solution for Sulphur Springs. I tend to be a quiet observer, meaning I like to watch, learn, and study people and situations so that I have a full understanding. I have watched some unpleasant things unfold during this campaign, and I'm really taken back by some of the rudeness and condescending attitudes that I've witnessed. If I'm elected to city council, as in any other area of my life, I vow to treat people with respect, to listen to all citizens of our community, and to consider this position an awesome responsibility. I recently read a quote by the late Barbara Bush. She said, "Never lose sight of the fact that the most important yardstick of your success will be how you treat other people." I feel that this is the very first step in any endeavor and will most likely determine the path. We should consider this election our map for the road ahead and not just a scrapbook for where we've been. I would be honored and humbled to earn your vote for place 1 on May 5th.
Sorry, I'm tired of sitting. So, when I moved back to Sulphur Springs in the year 2000, I hadn't really paid a whole lot of attention to my town when I grew up here. It was just a place that I grew up and wouldn't have noticed a pothole unless my car hit it. But when I moved back, I started viewing my town through my young wife's eyes. Channing, would you stand up? It's my wife, Channing Johnson. Thank you. And there were some things that I didn't like. I still love my town, but there were some things that needed to be improved. Shane, would you show that picture? This picture is not acceptable to me. This picture should not be acceptable to our citizens, and this picture was something that needed to be changed. It has been said a lot on Facebook that we need change in our city. If you want change, vote for me. If you want change, vote for the people that have delivered this change. Change has many different forms. There's another way to look at change. You know, it's ironic to me that the people that are hollering the most about wanting change are the same people that fought us the hardest when we did this. And I keep using the word we because I didn't do this by myself. I did it with other members of council. I did it with city staff. I did it with people that aren't on council anymore. And we all, as a people, did this together. It is an amazing thing. We are the envy of every city in this area, and I am proud of it. I was proud of my town before. I'm proud of my town now, and I couldn't think of any place that I would rather raise my children than this town of Sulphur Springs. I love it. Shani, would you show the second picture? I'm proud of this. I'm proud of what we've done. And just imagine what we can do in the next 20 years if we all work together and we keep working for change, not doing what the people that are talking about change right now, their meaning of change means stop. We don't need to stop what we're doing. If you don't grow, we're going to die. Right now, Paris and Mount Pleasant, they're both upset because this uppity Sulphur Springs has jumped ahead of them. They cannot stand it, and we need to go back where we were, being third string. And they are raising money right now in Paris to do exactly what we've done. We've gotten ahead of them. We're going to stay ahead of them. This is a great place to be. I'm proud to be here, and I'll be proud to have every one of your votes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Jimmy Lucas.
Well, in my opinion, what can be said that hadn't already been said up here today, but to sum it up, I actually do love downtown. I've probably been called a downtown hater just because I want to see things taken care of outside of downtown. The problem with that, and the problem with citizens who don't know or who don't sit on city council, is where's the money going to come from? And the money has to come from taxes. Taxation is the only way to fix things and to make things happen in a city. That's just the way it is. And what we have to do is figure out where those taxes are coming from, what the rate is of them coming in, and monitor the flow of them going out. Now, some things that I see that comes to my mind right quick is, we're proud of things that we do when we do them, but then we soon forget them. I took a drive not long ago out to Lake Sulphur Springs, and I'm appalled at what a place that was my stomping ground when I was a teen has become. The baseball field out there isn't even worth bulldozing. The boat docks are just about gone. It's unfeasible for swimming. There's dead fish laying around. To me, I have pride in the whole town, and that Sulphur Springs Lake is within the city limits, and it needs to be taken care of. I toured our senior citizens building. There also, I was appalled at what I found. There's numerous problems at that building. Now, there's county people that use that building too. We just need to figure out a way that we can joint venture with the county and the city and come up with a new building for them people. We do massive projects all the time, so we got to figure it out. We have to figure out how to get that fire chief back. It has caused great dissension amongst our firemen. It has caused somewhat of division in our community, and those kind of divisions we just can't have. We've got to open. My mother had a saying: give a piece of your heart before you give a piece of your mind. And we need to get a lot of people together that are willing to give a piece of their heart before they give a piece of their mind and solve some of these problems that are dividing our city.
Ms. Sarah Gibson.
As I alluded to earlier, like many of you, I have employees. I make decisions pretty often that they might not approve of. I have to take things into account that they have no knowledge of. They do not understand the inner workings of the business that determine the outcome of some of the decisions I have to make on their behalf. For example, payroll taxes. It's in their best interest for me to pay those taxes. It enables us all to keep working without fear and keeps me out of jail. Their focus, understandably, is the greatest amount of money that they can make, but taxes and other expenses of all kinds cut into what they can take home. My focus is to keep the business afloat and profitable so that they continue to have jobs. I was not elected to this position, but they elected to work for me, so I have a responsibility toward them all. I say all that to say two things. First, I take my obligations and commitments seriously in my work, in my personal life, and in my heart for God. I'm in no way perfect, but I'm dedicated and solid. Second, we can't all know every detail of every decision made in our city. We are given the opportunity to vote for those we think will do a great job for us, and when that's done, we must trust them to do that job to the best of their ability with the knowledge they have and we don't have. In conclusion, we have some outstanding council members that love this city as you and I do. Place 2 Councilman Clay Walker served our city for many years. He retires now from city service with honor and integrity. I simply wish to emulate his service with the same honesty and integrity. I pledge to study every issue as I have for my own employees and business over the last 17 years and make decisions that reflect the best for all of us. Sorry, like I said, for now and for the future of Sulphur Springs. Thank you, Chamber, for hosting this amazing event. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. God bless you all, and God bless Sulphur Springs, Texas.
Okay, at this time, one of the candidates for Place 3, Norman Sanders, was unable to be here this evening. He did send his regrets when the invitations were initially sent out. His wife had surgery today, and that was already scheduled at the time this event was scheduled. So they did offer him an opportunity for somebody to read during the closing statement. He did send this earlier today or earlier this week and asked that it be read, so I'm going to read his statement at this time. So, stand up. My name is Norman Sanders, and I wish to thank the Sulphur Springs Chamber of Commerce for putting on this event. I cannot be with you tonight due to my wife of 40 years is having surgery today, and my place is with her. I wish I could be there, but I just can't. I have served this city and country my entire adult life, from the U.S. Navy to the Volunteer Fire Department, as a school board member, and a police officer. I hope to continue to serve as a city council member. I was raised by my parents to believe in an order of God, country, family, and I still live that way. I'm asking for your vote on May 5th, 2018 for city council. Thank you for your time, Norman Sanders. So, continuing on, Mr. Oscar Aguilar.
I'm just Oscar. I mean, I wear a lot of hats here in town. I've been on the council since 2006, and we've seen a lot of progress since my arriving here in August of 1969 when I was just 6 years old. It's been a big difference here. We've improved, of course. Here we go, downtown. Yes, we have. Look what we have. We all love it. It does entice people to come and be here with us on the weekends. The festivals that come on, I mean, it's just a happening place. The businesses that we have, Saputo is expanding. Ocean Spray, they're expanding. Bob Evans Foods, BF Foods, they've expanded 2 or 3 times since I've been on council. You know, the things that we've been able to work with EDS and council to get those people to expand and have their jobs, Amarok, Celicor, there's Clayton Homes, you know, just any time that they need improvements, we need to work to allow them to improve and generate more businesses, more work here in town. Our streets, yes, we definitely need to focus on our streets. Radio Road, well, there we go. That's how long I've been here. Radio Road has been done, you know. I mean, we completed that project, not so much in a timely manner, but we got it done. Moore Street, you know, was done well. Locust, Houston Street was redone, you know, and there's so many more. Sunset is fixing, the little strip of Sunset is finally going to get a curb. I mean, it's been blacktop ever since I've been in Sulphur Springs since 1969, but it's going to get reworked. There's other, you know, issues that we have. I mean, the upgrade on the sewer plant out there, wastewater treatment plant, I'm sorry, is very much needed if we're going to try to bring in and let these companies that are expanding to be able to expand with the growth of that plant out there. Yes, Lake Sulphur Springs. We've talked about the area of maybe being a school for pontoon planes. The aircraft company out there, Legend Aircraft, correct? They're out there trying to bring in, that kind of training and everything, and what better place for them to come in and practice in Lake Sulphur Springs. Once, there is issues, but how are we going to build that? Maybe bringing more companies in out there at the airport. The airport itself has increased. There was pictures posted on Facebook of the two big planes there the other day. I think they came in for Saputo. We can handle a big plane, and thank God to the people at EDS and everybody else to be able to have helped the improvements out there at the airport in the city as well.
So yay! It's done. Yay. Listen, as a chamber, it was very important to us to come here tonight and put on an event that when you leave here, you say to yourself, you know what, I'm glad that I went because I learned something today. And that was very important to us. To make tonight happen, I need to say thank yous to several people because there was a lot of work that went into tonight. And number one, to the Hopkins County Republican women, and I think maybe some of the Democratic women are here. Thank you for bringing snacks and refreshments. Thank you to Sulphur Springs ISD, especially Mike Lamb and Tonette Lamp, who were here to let us borrow their facility. It was a great place to be. Garrett, thank you for keeping time. Bradley, thank you for keeping us all straight. Chris Brown, thanks for your help and support always. Let me also say thank you to the Hopkins County Sheriff's Department for being here tonight, and for my Chamber of Commerce volunteers, my board, and my ambassadors. It's good to see you, and y'all are always there to help. So let me say this. Chris and I have a firm believer that as a voter, you have a responsibility to go out, research your candidate, pick the one that is the best fit for you. And so I hope tonight you were able to get a little information to be able to do that. Hope that you'll be able to make your best fit, make an educated choice about who you're choosing. And let me also just say that early voting begins on April 23rd, which is Monday, and then Election Day is on May 5th. And so I want to encourage you, if you wanted to ask a question to a candidate, feel free to go up and talk to them after this is over. If you have a personal question that maybe we didn't get to tonight, they said that was okay and they didn't mind that, and so I encourage you to do that. Let me say thank you for coming, and that is the end of our evening.
Yeah, there you go. That's where we can finance some stuff.